Everyone's wondering, is the Newport Beach market gonna crash?
But before we get into the video, we just want to make sure you know, Robert and I are licensed agents here in Newport Beach. So if you have any questions about real estate, whether it's buying, selling, investing, make sure you reach out to us. But before we get going here, if you are new to the channel, like, subscribe, and hit the little bell button so you don't miss any future content we put out. Let's get into this.
So let's talk about the trends over the last 5 years in Newport Beach to give everybody that's watching kind of some context. So I think the best place to start would be median house price.
Yeah, so we've seen a trend from 2019 up to 2024. So in 2019, the median home price for a single family detached home in Newport Beach was $2.499 million. Then going into 2020, we actually saw a little bit of a dip, and the single family detached home price median was $2.4875. And I think there was a little bit of confusion during COVID as well. So, I mean, you know, again, things with real estate, they go up and they go down, but the overall trend you'll see here is going up in Newport Beach.
Yeah, I agree. I think when we had the pandemic news, people kind of freaked out, hit the brakes, and that sort of created subtle nuances in the market going into 2020. In 2021, we saw that number shoot up to 3,150,000, which is in alignment with what we saw. I mean, the rates were historically low in the mid to high twos, and buyers were buying like crazy. And I hate to use the word crazy, but it was literally a frenzy where we were seeing 20, 30, 40, 100 offers on properties because of how affordable real estate was.
Yeah, Newport Beach, definitely the numbers shot up. I mean, it was like that across the country as well, like you touched on. And then getting into 2022, we actually saw a dip in the median home price in Newport Beach, and it went down to 2.750. And that is probably because the rates did what? They shot up, right? We saw a massive increase. They went from like around 3 to 3.5 to like 7. So it was like a double, like
it was a triple.
Yeah, I mean, it was nuts. So that stalled the market a little bit. People pulled back. Things softened, although business was still being done in Newport Beach and people were still buying. There was a lot of cash. The median home price did come down a little bit. And then fast forward to 2023, then we saw the growth really happen where now the median home price up to the end of last year is $3.9 million.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that a lot of buyers that were waiting for rates to come down in 2023 realized that, hey, I think rates might be here to stay. And although there is speculation that rates will fall this year, buyers in general are just getting used to the fact that rates are gonna be higher and we're not gonna see 2s and 3s anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. The new norm is 6, maybe 7% is what people are doing. Obviously, everybody's situation is different on what kind of rate they can lock in, but literally people are like, well, you know what, if I don't buy now, am I gonna be able to buy?
Yeah.
Because the trends show for the last 5 years, I mean, that percentage, you're the math guy, what is it, 57%?
57%, bingo, dude. And you know, another thing to kind of focus on is we are also dealing with a lot of cash buyers. And so a lot of the cash buyers are saying, well, hey, if I'm gonna buy now, I continue to see prices going up. I better buy now before I have to pay more in 2025 or 2026. And so although the rates are high and affordability is lower, the fact that we have lower inventory is creating higher demand. And so I'm not surprised to see this number at 3.9 million, which takes us into inventory. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so inventory is also another factor and data point we want to talk about when we talk about a crash in Newport Beach. So going all the way back 5 years again to 2019, the active single family homes on the market was 235 to start in January of 2019. And then we ended that year with 230. So like a minor fluctuation throughout the year, right? And then we go to 2020 and we had, in January of 2020, we had 222 single family homes on the market. And then it went down by the end of 2020 where we saw that spark. We ended with 180 single family homes.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that interest rates got so low that buyers were like, there's never been a better time to buy, let's buy. And homes were being gobbled up. There were more buyers than homes available for sale. And our absorption rate, which is how fast homes are actually selling, was like 1 month. We had like very little inventory. And then as we went into 2021, we started the year out at 185 listings. And then in December, we ended the year at 80.
Yep, and that is where the drop happened, right?
It's anemic.
Yeah.
And it was arguably the best market we've ever seen or may ever see in our lifetime.
As a seller, absolutely. I mean, homes going on the market that didn't sell during that year, there was a major issue with either price or something going on with the property that was a stigma that wouldn't have it sell, because everything was selling and they were selling for record prices in 2021.
Yeah, I mean, I still remember all the agents and the posts about, oh, you know, who you work with matters. I did this and I got 50 offers. And I was like, everyone's getting 50 offers because there wasn't enough property, there wasn't enough product for the buyer demand that was out there. And the supply and demand is just straight economics 101, right?
Yeah.
When there's not a lot of supply, the demand is high, and that's exactly what we saw. And so
that trended forward,
Yeah, going into 2022, we started the year with 81 listings, and it's
single
like,
family homes at 81. I mean, remember we were talking 2019 was over 200, and now we're at 81. So that anemic level came down.
That's like 65, 70% lower than in 2019, and 2019 was considered a low inventory year.
Yeah.
So if we were seeing high demand in 2019, you can only imagine how high the demand was in 2021 and 2022.
Yeah, so we ended 2022 with 109 single family active homes on the market, and that kind of continued into 2023, where we started off in January with 110 and then ended at 101 in December of 2023 last year. So going back to 2019 to today, or basically the end of 2023, it was like 50% plus less homes on the market to start the year, and that trend has continued, which is a major data talking point as to when you're talking about a crash in the Newport Beach market.
Well, that's the biggest thing. And I think we saw the fluctuation in 2023 where we saw listings go up is because the rates started going up again and people hit the brakes.
Yeah.
And then people got used to the rates. And so the home started selling again. So that's where we're seeing all the fluctuations. But the bottom line is the crash in 2008, 2008 to 2011, I think the peak for real estate in general in the entire county was like 16,000, and we're talking about around 2,000 now.
Yeah, in all of Orange County.
And so when we talk about crash and we talk about inventory and supply and demand, there's just not enough supply for the amount of buyers that are out there, and that's one reason why we don't necessarily see a market crash coming.
Right, yeah, we're seeing half as many homes on the market. Demand is still fairly strong and outpacing the supply on the market.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the pre-pandemic levels, they speak for themselves. And today, if you look at the numbers, it's still pretty anemic. And then another major factor is the home equity that people have, right? So right now, people are sitting on a ton of equity. Roughly across the nation, 67% plus have like their mortgage paid off, or they're sitting on at least 50% equity.
Which is the exact opposite of the market in 2008 to 2011, because during the periods of 2001 to 2005, banks were lending money with ridiculous products, like no income verification, no asset verification, 100% financing. So buyers were buying properties in an appreciating market, thinking that homes would never fall in price, with no equity, with no skin in the game. And so when the market turned and people couldn't afford their monthly payments, they're like, well, I'll just walk away from my home because I have nothing to fight for. So when we're talking about equity and having 50% equity, or maybe your whole house paid off, no one's walking away from that type of equity.
Right.
They're just not.
Yeah. So if we did see any sort of downturn, say the market dropped 40%, nobody's forced to sell, right? So there's not gonna be, oh, we have to sell. Now, we talk about this too. There is a small little chance to play devil's advocate here and say there's been a lot of talk around the 2-1 buy down, right?
Yeah, I mean, so the 2-1 buy down does create some uncertainty for some folks. And the reason why it does is because the 2-1 buy down is a temporary buy down to the rate that's currently being offered. So if right now rates are, let's say 7%, and you did a 2-1 buy down, you would have a 5% rate for the first year, and then a 6% rate for the second year, and then it'd go back to 7% in the third year. And the reason why this could cause some turmoil for some borrowers is because a lot of borrowers are using the 2-1 buy down with the hopes to refinance before their third year. And if they can't refinance before their third year, their monthly payment could be a burden.
Right.
So what we're telling our clients is hey, if you can leverage the 2-1 buy down, awesome. Save some money for the first couple years, but if you can't refinance, we need to make sure that you can actually afford that 7% payment, because if you can't, then this might not be the right program for you.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, the major things that we're talking about here, supply, demand, equity, the major thing with the interest rates and why we're seeing homeowners not coming on the market as much is because the rates that they have locked in. I mean, it's astounding the percentage of people that have a sub 4% or even sub 5% interest rate right now.
The majority of homeowners right now have a sub 5%.
They're locking that in, they're staying it. Whether they want to buy something new, they're not selling that property because they figure it's so cheap to own it, why would I even sell it? So they're hunkering down, people are staying in their homes longer. That's a stat that we've been seeing lately too. So that all coupled with everything we discussed there with equity and supply and demand, we don't see a crash.
Yeah, I don't see a crash. I mean, a correction, maybe. A crash, I don't think so. But that's our opinion. What's yours? If you made it to the end of this video, thank you for watching and thank you for your support. Comment below, let us know what your thoughts are on the Newport Beach market or the Orange County market in general.